A very good morning to you. It is the 3rd of March. It is a Wednesday. Thank you for waking up with us here on Pan-African Morning. Welcome to the program. Here's hoping you're having a fantastic morning, and here's hoping that we can try and make it better going forward. My name is AUDREY. I'll be taking you through some news and updates. We have quite a bit of an exciting lineup for you. A bit of news and politics as usual, some current affairs, and of course we'll be talking to Vusi Khumalo, composer, drummer, musical. So if you're into the arts, you might enjoy that interview. You want to stick around for that. We'll begin here now, where the government once again is putting the possibility of a state bank front and center of a financial policy. Both President Cyril Ramaphosa and the Finance Minister Tito Mboweni recently visited the topic of the bank's establishment.
Mr. Molefe, you can respond, yes, in the context of them saying, don't look at the price in isolation, look at it in the context of ESCOM's delay in acquiring the piece of land. And we can move on.
My understanding was, as the contract was coming to an end, example, their price demand was 1,300. And in addition, they wanted us to buy land to give to them. That was their demand. They're demanding that we should buy land and give it to them.
As a client.
It's a cost plus mind.
Yeah. Yeah, we must buy land and give it to them. Which is what I was uncomfortable.
Well, that was a recap of a state capture inquiry yesterday when we heard former CEO Brian Molefe giving his testimony to the Zondo Commission. We'll get a bit more into that a bit later. For now, though, Norman Munjelele, that's the ENCA's MD, has accepted a memorandum of demands from the ANC's Deputy Secretary General, Jesu Duarte. We saw members of the African National Congress picketing outside of the premises of the ENCA yesterday. This following allegations of racism by one of their reporters just a couple of weeks ago when she was interviewing some politicians outside of Parliament soon after the President of the Republic gave the State of the Nation address. Here's what happened.
DSG, I think on behalf of ENCA management as the captain of the team, we accept this memorandum and we hear the demands that
Please speak a bit louder, sir.
Yeah, it's overbearing.
Your journalists are going to say... You're mumbling. Put it there.
No, I'm saying thank you very much, DSG, and all the people who are here. I want to accept this memorandum on behalf of ENCA management as the captain of the team. And I want to give you our commitment as ENCA, as I said yesterday, that ENCA does not exist in a vacuum. ENCA exists in South Africa, which is a constitutional democracy, and ENCA commits itself to contribute to building a non-racial, non-sexist, united and democratic South Africa. And we will do everything possible within our powers as the ENCA to ensure that we transform, to ensure that our journalists, our management are aware of racial issues in the country. We understand that's a very sensitive issue of race and race relations. And as yesterday I've said, I've committed that we will have programs that we are going to be implementing that touches on our journalists, be it round tables and all of those things. We hope that you will be willing, DSG, when we invite you to come for those kind of discussions.
We will
as the ENCA. We'll commit and we will be able to respond to the demands that you have given to us. Thank you very much. And we also want to thank you for the spirit within which you have demonstrated and picketed outside here. We really want to appreciate your members.
Well, the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC, Jesu Duarte, handed over the memorandum to Norman Munjelele, that is the MD of the ENCA. The ANC picketing, of course, outside of the ENCA offices there against what they say are acts of racism by the broadcaster. The broadcaster has since stood by their employee, saying that whatever happened on that day was misinterpreted.
Viva! Thank you, Comrade SG of the ANC Women's League. We're now going to have our DSG reading the statement of the African National Congress and our message. And we are also going to witness the leadership of the ANC through Comrade DSG, Comrade SG of the Women's League, Comrade PS, handing over the memorandum to the management of the place that we are at. So they will hand over the memorandum, and that will be a very, very important act that we are doing. In other provinces, comrades, in Limpopo, a memorandum has been submitted to the Human Rights Commission. In Western Cape, it is at the ENCA. In Tshwane, it is at the ENCA. In the Eastern Cape, it's at the ENCA and the Human Rights Commission. In other regions, 52 regions are doing the same thing. They are in the different police stations where we do not have an office of ENCA or a building. But the freelancers in Limpopo have been contacted by the ANC. The freelancers of ENCA, they've been given the memorandum so that in the way they work for ENCA, they must deliver the memorandum. So, long live the ANC, long live. Pambiling a renewal, pambiling a unity, unity.
They gave it to you, get feedback and come back to them. It's not me.
Well, in other news now, the Zondo Commission yesterday heard Eskom-related evidence from the former Eskom Group Chief Executive Officer Brian Molefe. He told the Commission how Optimum Coal Mine still tried to force the power utility to enter into a financially unviable, coal supply agreement, which would sink Eskom. Here's a recap of his testimony.
They gave it to you, get feedback and come back to them. It's not me.
No, and I'm saying to you, Mr. Sileke, that yes, the mandate was not to get feedback. The mandate was to deal with the matter. I mean, getting feedback as an instruction from the board to a CEO, just go and get feedback. I mean, that is a clerical function to get feedback. I was a group chief executive. I had to look at the matter and deal with it decisively, which is what I did. But to add, Mr. Sileke,
tell the chair.
The agreement, Chairperson, the agreement that you refer to, I subsequently discovered, had been signed by an official who did not have authority to do so in the first place. We don't know who that official was working for that had agreed to this proposal being brought to where it was. We did not have, we did not know who the official had been working for. The agreement had never been to the board before it was signed. The implications, the financial implications were such that the size of the transaction that was being proposed to be done was so big that that official did not have authority. If you question Mr. Koko, the official that signed the agreement reported to Mr. Koko. Mr. Koko was not...
Well, the State Capture Inquiry Chairperson, Raymond Zondo, says allegations leveled against President Cyril Ramaphosa are not being ignored. He was responding to the former Eskom CEO Brian Molefe's comments that issues that are surrounding Glencore and Optimum are being swept under the carpet.
Yes.
Just as we are recapping, I just want to remind the Commission that I did make a statement which made a substantive allegation to the extent that I felt that Glencore had been trying to extort 8 billion out of us, and that the president had been made the current president had been made a shareholder in Optimum, actually, significant company that is at the center of everything that has happened here. I'm saying this now because the fact that while we were recapping that was not mentioned, I hope that it is not being swept under the carpet and being forgotten conveniently. Just to make sure, Chairperson, that it did register, and that there is a certain amount of weight that will be attached to what I said, because it is at the center. Glencore and Optimum are at the center of all these fires that are behind.
Well, Mr. Mlefe, I'm surprised that you would think that it's being swept under the carpet, because you said it publicly. And you know from your own experience that when a witness says something that implicates somebody in terms of the rules of the commission, that person is given a copy of that statement so that they have a chance to respond. So I didn't expect you to think that it would be swept under the carpet. I know some media said your evidence was stopped because you...
Well, the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, David Mabuza, visited BioVac Institute in Midrand. It is responsible for the storage and the distribution of the COVID-19 vaccines in South Africa. And we managed to get a clip of him inspecting the premises. Here's a report.
The vaccine that we are administering now, we store it here. And then from here, we distribute it to the different centers, in the main, to the vaccination sites. Well, what we have learned today is that the cold chain can be broken for some days. That won't alter the quality of the vaccine. But it cannot go beyond certain days. So this is the capability that we have as a country, which Cabinet took a decision to sort of improve this capability of us manufacturing our own vaccines. We do currently manufacture vaccines, almost 80%. We manufacture in Cape Town, then we distribute, but we want to increase this capacity so that as a country we can have that capability. So that's it. We're ready. We are not going to need another storage facility.
On to other news now. One person arrested in connection with the deaths of two on-duty police officers in Kraaifontein, will appear in court again on the 9th of March. The suspect made an appearance earlier yesterday. Police Minister Bheki Cele visited the family of the slain officers.
Around the ship-ins, because they were around the ship-in for compliance, people, they begin to resist and think that they can work outside the law. It's what also happened in KZN, where police went to seek for compliance, and those people, they resisted. Here they did too. But up to this point, police had to collect about 4 people for questioning. Out of those 4 people that were questioned, 1 now has been arrested. He has appeared in court this morning. A 32-year-old will appear again on the 9th. There are several things that we believe they are there to give us a correct person. He's got a bloody T-shirt that will take it for DNA, but the cellular of the young man, 28-year-old from this house, was found to that guy who has appeared in court. So he's linked on the matter. But we have ordered the police, and I'm ordering the police to say there were several of these people. They must be found, and they must be hunted and found. Doesn't matter where they are found, doesn't matter how.
And with that, we'll take a very short breather here on Pan-African Morning. Do stay with us. We have more news and updates lined up for you soon after this break. One of reggae's most important voices, Bunny-Wailer, passed away at the age of 73. We will have Vusi Khumalo, composer, drummer, who will help us understand his legacy. He'll talk to us on the phone in just a bit. Do stay with us. We'll be back after this.
Make massive moves.
Bible is human and divine.
It's important for us to remember.
And I'm part of God's story.
Yeah, mama, mama, hey.
God is healing you.
God says what he means, and he means what he says.
God is good.
I am very grateful to God. I am healed. Amen.
Make massive moves with Starsat.
This is just the beginning.
Make massive moves.
Get out! Get out of this place!
I love you. Do you love me?
Yes.
I like this.
Someone stole from me yesterday.
It was not my fault now.
Eh? Leave me or I blast your head.
No, don't shoot, sir, please.
Please don't kill us. I'll give you anything you want.
Make massive moves with Starsat.
Anger boils over in El Dorado Park.
Make massive moves.
Corruption allegations have hit too close to the office of the president.
America is crying out for leadership.
I'm the president and you're fake news.
Donald Trump has already started his attacks.
It is clear from the development of the disease.
It is still the biggest annual decline in 100 years.
Make massive moves with Starsat. Make massive moves.
Oh my God!
Oh! Knock out! And WBC Continental America's champion.
That was delightful.
Make massive moves with Starsat. Make massive moves.
Isn't that your daughter's bib? But the truth is, I feel like Arabella's always with me.
Don't you ever forget this man's face. He killed your brother.
Don't shoot! Please don't shoot! Don't shoot!
Make massive moves with Starsat.
Welcome back to the program, Pan-African Morning. Thank you for staying with us. We certainly appreciate it. Now, news coming in from the world of entertainment. A dark cloud is hovering around as we have learnt of the passing of Bunny-Wailer, who's passed away at the age of 73. The musician from Kingston, Jamaica, was one of the founding members of the Wailers. Most of you will remember him, alongside his childhood friend Bob Marley, who passed away in 1981. Now, together they achieved international fame with reggae classics such as Simmer Down, and you will remember Stir It Up, before Wailer then left to go solo in 1974. He went on to win 3 Grammys and was given Jamaica's Order of Merit in 2017. Now, his death was confirmed by his manager. The name is Maxine Stowe, and Jamaica's Culture Minister, Olivia Grange. Now, the cause of death is unknown at this point, but he had been in hospital since having a stroke in July of 2020. Tributes have already been pouring in for the musician, with fans, fellow musicians that are describing him as a legend. Well, we have one of our very own legend here in South Africa, will help us to somehow eulogize and remember the legacy of Baniwela. We have Ntate Vusi Khumalo, who is an accomplished drummer, a superb rhythm and technical precision, is also a respected mentor to a number of talented percussionists. We'll speak to him now. Very good morning, Ntate Khumalo. Welcome to the program.
Morning, Audrey. It's my pleasure to be with you now.
Under very sad circumstances, of course, with the passing of Baniwela, we appreciate you speaking to us this morning to help us remember him. I mean, you have traveled the world, you have played with legends such as John Legend, pun intended, Angelica Kijo, Shio Shakiras, and many other respected musicians. Today, would like for you to help us, to pay a tribute to the passing of Baniwela. What can you tell us about him?
I must say that Baniwela was serious. These are the guys who changed the game in the music, in the 70s, early 70s with Bob Marley. They had a band, that really changed the mindset, especially in the African perspective, it's just a sad day, to hear about him, about his passing. But I must say that these are the guys who have actually influenced a lot of musicians, including here in South Africa, people like Carlos JJ. I don't know if you know about Carlos JJ. And, Lucky Dube, there's so many of them. Raga music, it has influenced a lot of people, especially black people, not only black people, even the, different races in the world. And it's just a sad thing that he has passed away. But what I can say is that, they have played their part. And I had an opportunity in 1980 when I traveled to Zimbabwe. It was called Rhodesia those days. We went there to play as a band with my band in Zimbabwe. And this was just before they got their independence. So when Zimbabwe got their independence, fortunately I was there, and I got to meet Bob Marley because he was part of the people who were invited there. It was like meeting Mandela,
Wow.
It was amazing, yes.
And that period that you're speaking of, Ntate Khumalo, of when they visited Zimbabwe when they just attained their independence, still remains such a historic and iconic moment for most Zimbabweans as we speak at the moment. And, it really influenced most people there that still listen to reggae music. I was just speaking to my colleagues before the program started, how some of us were born, after the likes of, Bob Marley had passed away, but it still has so much influence on us. Yes. Having met him, how much of his music influenced you, especially during the apartheid years, if at all?
Well, as you know, that at that time, apartheid, South Africa was under apartheid, and these are the people who actually encourage a lot of black people around the world, to hold on to the faith that one day we'll be free. And of course, I really loved his music, and a person like Lucky Dube, as you know, that I'm a versatile musician. I play jazz in all kinds of styles, as I've played with so many people in the world. But a person like Lucky Dube, he actually invited me to play on his albums. Wow. A lot of people, they don't know about that. That's how I loved raga music as well, because it's one of those music that actually influenced a lot of people around the world. And it's just sad that a lot of radio stations now these days, they don't even play that kind of music. And as I was touring with Hugh and Miriam, in the 80s, we went to Virgin Islands, all the Virgin Islands. When you arrive there, they will ask you, do you know Lucky Dube? Because they knew that we're coming from South Africa, I mean, a man like him was highly rated, you know, here in Africa, and it's just a sad, you know, how can I say that, coming that South Africa, you know, they don't even actually remember a person like him, you know.
It's such a huge loss, especially for the new generation that really could learn from that kind of messaging and that music, because that's what it was really. I'll take you back to 1976. Jimmy Cliff, another reggae artist, performing at Orlando Stadium. I want to believe you will remember that. Do you think this was the beginning of perhaps a democratic South Africa in terms of the messaging that we heard from during that period, and having the likes of himself performing there?
Yes, I mean, Jimmy Cliff, he, you know, when he came to South Africa those days, I mean, I was still young as well at that time. But I'm telling you, he actually changed the complexion of the, you know, music scene. You know, I mean, in South Africa, a lot of musicians, they started playing raga music. You know, as I say that, you know, people like Carlos, I mean, Carlos Georgia, maybe a lot of people, they don't know Carlos Georgia. Those are the people who used to call me to play with them, you know, to play raga with them, do you understand? And, you know, I mean, well, where we are is because of the influence of the music, you know, and especially raga music, you know, and, you know, it's just a sad moment, as I say, that kind of music is just fading away, and that's our culture, you know, that's the sad part of it.
You know, I can't help but imagine some kind of a virtual tribute, you know, from other musicians, some kind of a special gig to, you know, to celebrate the life of Bunny Wailer. Of course, I understand during COVID-19 regulations, gatherings are not allowed, but you know, it would have been really nice to have something like that planned out. This is me giving you a hint that perhaps you'll do that special gig for us. But surely, you know, the Peter Toshes of this world, the Bob Marleys and, you know, Bunny Wailer now will create another band in heaven, as was in Jamaica, and may their souls rest in peace.
I believe so. And, you know, again, I think in 1980, when I did, you know, the first birthday concert, you know, which was very big in London at what is it? It was for Mandela, you know, you know, the first birthday cake that was, you know, it had about 80,000 people, you know, in the stadium. And I met Bob Marley's, you know, children. It was amazing, you know. And when I told them that I met their father in Zimbabwe, you know, there was so much connection between me and them, you know.
Wow.
It was amazing. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much for helping us remember him and for sharing what you remember of his legacy with us. We certainly appreciate it. That's Mr. Vusi Khumalo, composer, drummer, who's was talking to us after the passing of the legend. That is Bunny Wailer. Very good morning to you, sir. And of course, may his soul rest in peace.
Yes, thank you so much.
Now, the star, whose real name was Neville O'Reilly Livingston, had been the last surviving member of the Wailers, as we've already alluded to, following Bob Marley's death from cancer in 1981 and Peter Tosh's murder during a robbery in 1987. He was born on the 20th of April in 1947 in Livingston. He spent most of his life, his earliest years, in the village of 9 Miles, where he was raised by his father, Thaddeus, who ran a grocery store there. That's where they first met with Bob Marley, as we are now starting to understand his biography. And the toddlers soon became friends, making their first music together and at Stepney Primary and Junior High School. Well, we'll take another short breather. Thereafter, we'll take a look at our stories from the African continent. Tell us if you remember any of Bunny Wailer's songs, and if you would like to, of course, send your condolences or anything that you would like to say about him on our social media platforms. You're welcome to do that. Our Facebook page is live as we speak. Our Twitter handle @GUN_TV_, and we'll be happy to read some of your messages out there for those that are mourning this great legend. We'll take a break now.
Make massive moves.
Bible is human and divine.
It's important for us to remember.
And I'm part of God's story.
God is healing you.
God says what he means, and he means what he says.
God is good.
I am very grateful to God. I am healed. Amen.
Make massive moves with Starsat.
This is just the beginning.
Make massive moves.
Get out! Get out of this place!
I love you. Taylor.
Yes.
I like this.
Someone stole from me yesterday.
It was not my fault now. Eh?
Leave me alone. Blast your head. No, don't shoot, sir. Please. Please don't kill us. I'll give you anything you want.
Make massive moves with Starsat.
This is Pan-African Morning. To all our viewers across the continent, you're welcome to the program. Thank you for staying with us and for waking up with us. It's a few minutes before we hit the top of the hour, 8 o'clock. And before we do that, we'll take a look at stories from the African continent. Once again, we go to Nigeria, where gunmen have freed 279 girls that were kidnapped from a boarding school in northwest Nigeria. Well, the governor of Zamfara confirmed this on Tuesday. Here's a report.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
Tearful parents embraced their daughters as all 279 schoolgirls kidnapped in northwest Nigeria were freed by their abductors, the state governor announced on Tuesday. Reuters journalists saw dozens of teenage girls wearing blue head coverings and face masks filling up a government hall. Most appeared to be unharmed, but at least a dozen were sent to hospital for treatment. Uma Abubakar recalls her experience.
Most of us were wounded on our feet and we could not continue trekking, so the captors said they would shoot anybody who did not continue to walk. We walked across a river and they hid us and let us sleep under shrubs in a forest.
Gunmen raided the government girls' science secondary school in the town of Jangabi at around 1 a.m. on Friday. Earlier reports said 317 girls were abducted, but the state governor said some hid in the bush and the 279 missing were now back home.
Alhamdulillah.
Balarabe Kagara was reunited with his 14-year-old daughters.
I'm very happy indeed. God has made this ordeal that we found ourselves in come to an end. We are happy. We thank God for everything.
The state governor said repentant bandits working with the government under an amnesty program had helped secure the girls' release. Armed criminal groups have targeted Nigerian schools with mass kidnappings for ransom in a trend started by the jihadist group Boko Haram. President Muhammadu Buhari warned against paying ransoms to kidnappers, which the national government has denied doing. He said ransom payments will continue to encourage kidnapping and urged the police and the military to bring the kidnappers to justice.
Well, in another report, Africa is seeing huge shortages of oxygen during this COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Philip Daneton, the executive director of Unit Aid, told media how a new task force is trying to deliver affordable and sustainable access to oxygen during this very difficult time. Here's a report.
Since the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, the need for affordable and sustainable access to oxygen has been growing in low and middle-income countries. Currently in developing countries, more than 500,000 people are estimated to need oxygen cylinders per day. Many countries in Africa in particular are reporting spikes in demand. The International Solidarity Organization and the WHO launched a task force a month ago to manage the oxygen crisis related to COVID-19.
The first step is to make the diagnosis. That is to say, to identify what the needs are and where they are located, This is an absolutely essential step. And that was the meaning of the first intervention of the group, which very quickly identified needs in about 20 countries, including 15 African countries which have the most acute needs. This first wave of countries concerns, for example, Senegal, Chad, the DRC, but also Nigeria, which has identified a very important need. Malawi is also affected, and this is not a unique situation in each of the countries. We have seen tension in South Africa, and fortunately today we see that the epidemic's dynamic is decreasing in this country. So the needs are very directly linked to the dynamics of the pandemic.
An important step would be to organize the purchase and the distribution of oxygen or the tools necessary to deliver it in countries where they are needed, from costs to logistics, including health infrastructure.
In Africa, several parameters make things more complicated in terms of access to oxygen. First, the infrastructure, and that is to say, the organization. The hospital's organization, oxygen distribution networks which are not yet installed everywhere. As for those which exist, they require technical assistance for their commissioning. And we are in the process of implementing other solutions, namely the extractors of oxygen. Instead of delivering oxygen in shells, devices are connected to a source of solar electricity. And that makes it possible to manufacture oxygen on site, and also to deliver this oxygen directly to the people who need it. This then allows us to have high levels of oxygen flows, which help to improve care given to people.
Des flux d'oxygène à haut débit et qui permettent de prendre en charge les personnes.
The new task force has identified an immediate funding requirement of $90 million to address the major oxygen access problems in some 20 countries, including Malawi, Nigeria, and Afghanistan.
We go to Rwanda now, where there has been a group of rape survivors that are finding solace in therapy. We hear from Emilene Mukansoro. She is a survivor of genocide in Rwanda back in 1994. Now, we see a handful of women that meet for group therapy for 9 years. She has run workshops for survivors of the genocidal rape who tell their stories. They support each other in what they call a safe place.
These 5 women were raped during the genocide of the Tutsis in Rwanda in 1994. Here in this support group, they can speak of their trauma for a few hours.
One of the militiamen told me to come with him and become his wife. He told me to leave my children. I took my youngest on my back. The killer said he was going to protect us, but instead, he took us to his house and raped me for 2 days.
Some rape survivors cannot talk to their loved ones about their ordeal. But the support group with a psychologist offers a safe space.
I was welcomed into the group. I finally found people to share my story with. It was a great comfort. I was able to open a small business, and I no longer have time to think about myself and the nightmare I went through.
Almost 1 million, mainly Tutsi but also moderate Hutu people, were killed in the genocide in Rwanda. Studies suggest between 200,000 and 500,000 people fell victim to rape during the attacks. Psychologist Emilene Mukansoro, herself a genocide survivor, started the group therapy sessions in 2012. The need for support doesn't...
Well, Niger's Malian Agna festival brings the best talent to the desert. Mani Ansa revived a legendary festival. It was founded in Timbuktu Desert near the Malian capital, Bamako, on a sandy island.
This island in the middle of the Niger River in the city Kulikoro hosts for the second time the Agna Festival, which means culture in the Tamashek language. On hiatus since 2012, Mani Ansar revived the legendary festival, which he founded in the Timbuktu desert near the Malian capital Bamako on a sandy island that reminds him of his homeland. Music lovers miss the Festival au Désert, a huge tourist attraction, but the new Agna Festival is nevertheless a meeting ground for artists from all over Mali. This festival was born out of an idea to take a bit from the Festival au Désert in the south of Mali, because we can't hold it in Timbuktu at the moment. We found a place with a bit of the desert. That's what we have here in the middle of the Niger River, in Koulikoro, a few kilometers from Bamako. Artists from the north of Mali, of the refugee camps, and of the south can meet again, as they did in Timbuktu. Songoi Blues, founded in Bamako in 2012 by musicians who left their hometowns in the north following the installation of Sharia law. The now internationally renowned band gave their first concert in Timbuktu. These people were longing for the event. It's been missing for so many years that he didn't have a festival there. So it is more than necessary for them to have music here again, just like how it was before in Timbuktu, a great crossroads of music. The young artist, Kader Terhanin, the rising star of Tuareg music, has become one of Mali's most beloved artists. Kader's dream is to perform one day in front of his fans at the mythical festival in the desert. I play music for everyone. Music has no borders. Today I play in Koulikoro, but I would like to play freely, also in Kidal, Menaka, Gao, Timbuktu.
Niger bringing talent to the desert there. We'll take a very short break. This is Pan-African Morning.